Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel. Tap the notification bell. I'd appreciate it majorly. So, this is first time I made a video about the coronavirus. Definitely been following the news like everybody else. Fairly steady-wise. And I'm not here to give an overall breakdown or anything like that. I'm here to focus on one thing that concerned me. When I saw the press conference today that Trump gave, with some of his experts and Pence there, he spoke as well. But one of the doctors, I think his name is, Zunyou or something. I think he's from Seattle, because this is concerning the death of the person in Washington. It's the first U.S. death of somebody from coronavirus, which definitely gets people's attention. But what the doctor said, I'll play for you right now in a second. Where's the article here? So, a person in Washington has been confirmed as the first person to die from coronavirus in the United States at a Saturday press conference. Dr. Jeff Duchin. I think that's the doctor who speaks. Basically what he said, I'm going to paraphrase, and then I'll play the press conference. I'm telling you, and Trump hovered over him, as he spoke, watching and just like, hovered over him as he gave a breakdown, trying to be as honest as possible, I believe. And when he said it, I'm telling you right now, it concerned me. And it's the first time I heard anything like that. And I heard Rush Limbaugh say that this is just like a common cold and stuff like that. And, I don't think so. And I'm not here to scare people. I'm just telling you, this is how this is how I see it. And, I have concerns, definitely, So basically what he said is that the coronavirus, for 80% of the people, you basically just get like a bad flu, a bad cold or a bad flu cold. That's what he said. I'll play it for you, what he said. For 15 to 20% of the people that get the coronavirus, you're going to end up in the hospital. That right there, that number right there, that's the one where I was like, what? That I didn't know. All this stuff. 15, 20%, 20% of people that get the flu don't end up in the hospital, or get a common cold, end up in the hospital. That definitely got my attention, and then I think he went on to say that, 5% become critical, so, that's concerning to me a little bit. And I'll play that first before I do anything else. You can watch Trump, believe me. He's tuned in on when he's speaking. And the guy's just trying to level with people. But if you're telling me 20% of the people that get this are going to end up in the hospital, that is significant, all right?
Next thing is really getting the best people. We're the best people in the world. They're standing behind me. These people are so talented. I've seen them in action now for a number of weeks, actually, but in particular for the last 4 or 5 days. And I want to thank Mike Pence and everybody for the job they're doing. We have a great team. We have great people. And this too will end.
It's coming up.
Go ahead, please. Go. Do you want? Go ahead.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, you talked about people going about the routine. I did want to ask, though, with you and the Vice President, is the White House taking any extra precautions to make sure that you don't come in contact with the virus, either through your travel or with who you meet?
Well, I think so. We lead a life. I get around. I was in South Carolina last night. We had a tremendous rally.
I'm not going to do this a lot. I'm just going to play the press conference. But there were absolutely plenty of questions in this press conference. I could totally tell that there were certain persons he was calling on that he knew where they were going to be, okay? And, people from like Chinese press or something, or, I'm just telling you, this thing was coordinated, no doubt about it, and to minimize the impact. And that's supposed to make us feel better because, he goes on to say that, he was at a rally last night, that he's out there, he's not afraid, like he's going to get coronavirus or something. I mean, it's absurd. Like that's the question. I think that was the first question that was asked to him. Well, maybe not.
And around, I think we're going to be in very good shape. You're talking about 22 people right now in this whole very vast country. So I think we'll be in very good shape.
If I may, a couple of questions for Dr. Fauci about this virus. Dr. Fauci, what do you now understand about the morbidity? The Secretary refers to medically fragile people. Are you confident that if you're a relatively healthy young person, that this will not be fatal for you?
Okay, so the number in our country currently is low, but when you look at the pattern, it seems to be following the experiences that others have had. It's never 100%. If you look at the totality of the cases that have been reported, particularly from China, about 75 to 80% of them would do really quite well. They would just sort of like a bad flu or a cold. You get anywhere from 15 to 20 some odd percent who are going to go on to require advanced medical care, hospitalization, possibly intensive care. For the most part, the people who get in trouble and ultimately, tragically, would die from this are people who are elderly and or have underlying conditions, heart disease, chronic lung disease, diabetes, obesity because of the difficulty in breathing back and forth. However, every once in a while, you're going to see a one-off. You're going to see a 25-year-old person who looks otherwise well that's going to get seriously ill. But the vast majority of the people who get into trouble do have these underlying conditions. And that's why it confuses people, because they say, well, you just said that, and then there's a...
But that number of 20%, 15 to 20% that are going to need advanced medical care, hospitalization, or even I think you said 5% that need intensive care, 20% of people that are inflicted with it going to the hospital is significant. It just is. And so that's basically why I'm here to make this video, I mean, out of this entire press conference, which I did think was, kind of a joke, and it's just gotten so bizarre, man. Our government has gotten so crazy. I used to be so for limited government, small government, but this is not what I'm talking about. Okay, this is total incompetence and just completely leaving everybody in the dark. We don't know. That's the problem. And sort of talking this over with my wife and stuff, and we she has her own opinions. I don't have but we both agree that we're not being told everything, and that doesn't mean that there's something awful out there. It just means we're not being told. And I mean, I saw somebody on CNN, a medical expert, basically saying that, they weren't testing for quite some time. So it's very possible that people have already died from this, and they were just labeled as pneumonia, and it wasn't, because they were never tested for coronavirus. And I think there's some intent behind some of this stuff because the Trump administration doesn't want these things reported. They don't want people freaking out because people are dying from this virus, And but that statement is concerning. And I'll go on to let me just finish reading this report a little bit, just so you're aware of kind of the situation. And I'm not here to report it, from top to bottom. A person in Washington State has been confirmed as the first person to die from coronavirus in the United States. As at a Saturday press conference, Dr. Jeff Duchin, the health officer for Seattle and King County, said the deceased patient was a man in his 50s with underlying health conditions. So he did have underlying health conditions in his 50s. Trump first off said it was a woman. I do believe it's a man. There's been some back and forth on that, but in his 50s. Trump said in his late 50s. We don't know what his underlying health conditions is. But I'll go through the Journal of American Medical Association, that basically a Motley Fool article references, seemingly, saying maybe it's not as bad as as bad as they once thought. I don't know how he's necessarily coming to that conclusion, or he's saying that that's what the article's conclusion is. I don't know about that, but we'll look at it. And in terms of the underlying health conditions that could be causing, it's definitely older people are at risk. People over the 70s is, I think 50% of the fatalities are people over 70. Health officials said the patient who died was one of 3 new coronavirus cases in the area with no known travel history or links to global hot zones, indicating that the deadly outbreak is now likely spreading in communities. The deceased patient, who died overnight on Friday, had been a patient at the Evergreen Health's hospital in Kirkland, Washington, a hospital spokesman said. Then there's 2 other cases at a long-term care facility that supposedly don't have any connection to that individual, an elderly person at the long-term care facility, as well as a health worker there in her 40s. 2 other new coronavirus cases in Washington were linked to a long-term care, life care long-term care facility in Kirkland. Dr. Dushin said. One was a woman in her 40s who worked at the facility. Another was a resident in their 70s who is in serious condition. Neither had a recent history of travel. And those 2 facilities, even though they're saying that they have no connection to the person who died, the health worker and the person in their 70s who's in serious condition, that's the life care long-term facility. This is the Evergreen Health Medical Center where the person died overnight, Friday night. So, but I mean, this article just briefly was sort of like the top headline of the batch of headlines for the coronavirus, at least presently. It's not anymore, but it caught my attention just because of the title, coronavirus emerging numbers provide reasons for calm. And that I'm not an expert, so I'm not saying that they don't. But the title definitely caught my headline, my attention, and I just don't trust the way everything's reported, everything's organized, which articles seem to get ranked, and even within a grouping and so forth, and it's just have to be suspicious of everything. But in any event, when you look at this article, it's taking its conclusion or it's taking data from a recent study, brand new, basically on these people who have been stricken by it from Wuhan, China. 72,000 confirmed and suspected cases in China through February 11th. This is from a JAMA, a Journal of American Medical Association article, and it gives it basically summarizes a number of findings from this journal article. I mean, the number one that got my attention, again, it's the same thing, is this one right there that says roughly 81% of all confirmed cases were mild, okay? 14% were severe, and only 5% were critical, okay? And 81% of all confirmed cases were mild. That word mild, and that's described that way. It's described that way in the JAMA article. But still, when you go to read what they basically characterize as mild and severe and critical, you don't come away with it with such a good feeling. You don't. And I mean, this is the journal article right there. And I'm not going to go through every findings, because the one that concerns me the most, and I'll come back to this one more time just to go over, because he did compile a nice summary of the findings in terms of who has the higher mortality rate and people with underlying conditions, what their fatality rate are, which are considerable. I mean, just off the top of my head, cardiovascular disease, basically heart disease, had a fatality rate of 10.5%, which is so 1 in 10. I mean, that's significant. With diabetes, diabetes 7.3%. Diabetes is up there definitely. So, but if I could, let me just finish my point on this. On this fact point here, that roughly 81% of all confirmed cases were mild, 14% were severe, and only 5% were critical. I guess 5% is like the intensive care, 14%, is the hospital, 20% going to advanced medical treatment, 20%, 14 plus or 19%, whatever. This is the same thing the doctor was saying. But, over here, most cases were classified as mild, 81%. okay? Non-pneumonia and mild pneumonia, okay? So it's a pretty significant sickness. It's just you don't have to go to the hospital, However, 14% were severe. So 14% were severe with dyspnea. I don't even know what that is. Respiratory frequency greater than or equal to 30 per minute. Don't know what that means either. Blood oxygen saturation level less than 93%. Partial pressure of arterial oxygen to fraction of inspired oxygen ratio less than 300. Who knows what this stuff is? Obviously health professionals know better than myself, naturally. And or lung infiltrates greater than 50% within 24 to 48 hours. Well, that sounds like fluid in the lungs with more than 50%. I don't know. That's not precise, I'm sure. But the 5%, 5% that were critical: respiratory failure, septic shock, and or multiple organ dysfunction or failure. That's the 5%. I don't know. I'm not trying to overstate it. I'm just trying to tell you what I found to be a little bit alarming, and seemed to be new information to me. And it seems like we're not getting enough information. And, before I go, very quickly, like I said, the analysis found that 51% of all deaths occurred in individuals aged 70 years or and older, who comprised only 12% of all confirmed cases. The critical case rate and case fatality rate were strongly correlated with core morbidities. Individuals with COVID-19 and cardiovascular disease had a 10.5% fatality rate, while diabetes 7.3%, chronic respiratory disease 6.3%, hypertension 6%, cancer 5.6% were all associated with increased lethality. The critical case rate and case fatality rate were strongly correlated with age. Individuals aged 10 years to 39 years had a case fatality rate of only 0.2%. That's pretty good. So from 10 years old to 39 years old, only 0.2%. That's just a little bit above, basically, I think 0.1% is the fatality rate for flu for everybody. The case fatality rate increased for individuals with confirmed cases in their 40s to 0.4%, 50s 1.3%, 60s 3.6%, 70s 8%. It jumps, man, and 80s 14.8%. So it doesn't really have a lot of numbers for children, and I think it seems as though less children are being affected. No deaths were reported in individuals aged 9 years and younger. The confirmed case fatality rate was 2.3, meaning 23 out of 1,000 individuals with laboratory confirmed cases died. All deaths reported among critical cases, which comprise only 5% of the total confirmed cases. All deaths were reported among critical cases, which comprised of only 5% of total confirmed cases. No deaths were reported among mild or severe cases, which comprised of 95% of total confirmed cases. Individuals aged 30 years and older comprised 90% of all confirmed cases. Okay, so individuals under the age of 20 comprised only 2% of confirmed cases. So I mean that's very few children, very few. I mean, if there's only 2% were under the age of 20, and that's under the age of 20, so even less than that is kids that are just little toddlers. So that's unusual. That's pretty much it. And that's the story there, man. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.